હવે અવાજ ના કરશો. Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel. So this will be the last video lecture in a series of X-ray chest, that is extrathoracic structures, tubes, wires and other structures. So again, you should know what is normal, what is abnormal. But for knowing what is normal and abnormal, you should understand. So I'll try to make it as simple as possible so that you can understand. If you understand, you will remember. If you remember, you will try to recognize. And if you can recognize normal and abnormal, it will be very helpful to you in your everyday practice. So today we'll be talking on extrathoracic structures, tubes and others. Now, there are something which are very useful in an extrathoracic structure. Actually, they are not inside the thorax, but they are outside the thorax. Say like some lymph nodes, surgical emphysema, breast shadow, which we already discussed before, scapula, shoulder joints, and sometimes these are the part of our body, but sometimes you can have an structures which are there from outside, which are present on your clothings like hooks, buttons, or person has been in ICU, some tubes are introduced, some wires, pacemaker wires, sutures, foreign bodies, catheters, etc. may be seen. So try to recognize some of those, you will be able to identify some conditions. So usually you can see some of the tubes and wires. Tubes and wires will be very frequently seen if the person is admitted in ICU or ICCU or acute care unit or surgical acute care unit, etc. There are many emergency different types of units which are there. So in those particular conditions, whenever a person is critical, usually tubes and wires are introduced. And some of the common tubes, endotracheal tubes, Ryle's tube, monitor wires, pacemaker wires, central venous lines, drainage tubes, or sometimes if a person is already operated, a major surgery is done through a splitting of the sternum, you can see a still suture wires, etc. Now you can see here, there are a lot of wires and tubes. In such condition, it will become extremely difficult to identify what belongs to what. So whenever you are taking an X-ray, it is very important for a person who is taking an X-ray, as many lines as possible you separate out from the field, so you can see the lung shadows, mediastinal shadows, cardiac silhouettes, angles, etc. You can see much better. And when you separate them out properly, you can identify certain lines, tubes, their positions, which can be very important in a critical patient, because if you have put some tubes and which is not in a proper place, it will help you to do a reprocedure again and person can be benefited. So try to identify those lines and tubes. Now here one by one we'll show you some of the tubes which you can easily identify. You can see in this X-ray that this is the position of trachea, and in that trachea you can see one tube which is being there. This is endotracheal tube. So endotracheal tube is usually seen in a shadow of trachea. So try to, if you see any line inside the tracheal shadow, that is usually endotracheal tube, or sometimes it may be tracheostomy tube. But to differentiate the two, you will have to have a great watch, proper watch. Now if you look from the carina angle, if it is 5 cm above tubes, it is usually endotracheal tube. By and large we say that the fifth rib, it should be close to the fifth rib. So that particular is a endotracheal tube, very common. While carina angle is close to the 7th rib. So it is 5 to 7 cm above the carina. So that is most common position of the endotracheal tube. Now you can see here, this is trachea and you can see this line. This is endotracheal tube, right? Very, very clear. Now, if you see this endotracheal tube is little towards the right side, and it is almost going into right main stem bronchus. This is right bronchus. This is left bronchus. Now, if this tube is not placed properly, this should be higher up at the level of the fifth rib. Say suppose this is first, this is second, this is third, this is fourth, this is fifth. It should be higher up here at this level. This is little pushed down. So sometimes this can block left bronchus and you can end up with a left complete lobe collapse. So this can be one danger which can happen if it is not placed properly. You can see here, this is carina angle, and from this carina angle, this is 5 centimeter. This should be the position of the tube. So proper placement 5 centimeter above the carina angle. So this is the exact position. Now suppose by chance if you push it more, now you can see that the person has ended up with a collapse. So advance back or pull back and see that the one of the bronchus is not blocked. So this should be the thing when you look at the endotracheal tube, and this is very important when a person is in a ICU. See that he does not develop a collapse. Plus you can see there is one more which is going down like this. This is a wire which is going into the cardiac shadow. So that may be a pacemaker wire or could be a monitor wire. Now you can see this endotracheal tube is going into the right bronchus, right? This should not happen. If this is happening, this is advanced so far, and good number of times it enters into right bronchus much commoner, and it will produce what we call as left lobe collapse. See here, it has produced a left lobe collapse. So this could be a complication while putting an endotracheal tube, which you can identify by doing. Immediately withdraw this, aerate properly, this lung will expand. And see, this is the exact position. This should be at the level of 5 centimeter above the carina. This is left bronchus, this is left bronchus, this is right bronchus. So this should be 5 centimeter above. The tip of this tube should be 5 centimeter above this carina. It should be somewhere here, not here. Now this is tracheostomy tube. You can see this round. So this is opening, and that tracheostomy tube will be very short. It will not be very long. So this can be easily identified. So tracheostomy tube is usually done just above the suprasternal notch. If you see a round structure like this and a short tube, so usually it is a tracheostomy tube. So just look at that properly. And this is quite above the carina angle. This is carina angle. Now this wire, you can see the tip of this wire. Now this is a nasogastric tube. Clear? Now this is a nasogastric tube. So whenever the nasogastric tube is put for aspiration of gastric fluid, now if this is not put properly, then you cannot aspirate very nicely. So position of this should be proper. So tip of the tube should be below the diaphragm, and it should be on the left side of the abdomen. It should be here. Clear? So this is the gastroesophageal junction, and it should be below the diaphragm. So this is the exact position of a what we call as a gastric tube, nasogastric tube, or we call Ryle's tube. Is that clear? And it should be 10 centimeter or more beyond the gastroesophageal. From here till here, it should be minimum 10 centimeter. Minimum. Now this is another wire, which is a monitor wire. You can see this is one monitor wire. This is another monitor wire. Now this nasogastric tube should be placed properly. It should be in the center. Should cross the diaphragm. It should be below the diaphragm and should be on the left side, and should be minimum 10 centimeter below the gastroesophageal junction. So that should be the exact position of the nasogastric tube. Now sometime you can see here what has happened. This tube has entered into the trachea and it has entered into the right bronchus. And now if you feed him, it will end up with the aspiration and there will be collapse of this lung and superadded infection will set in. So this should not happen. Is it clear? So this is very, very important. When you are putting it inside, ideally we look at the air bubble which will come out because of tube entering into the trachea, and whenever it touches the epiglottis, person will start getting coughing. He will have a violent cough. You should immediately withdraw the Ryle's tube and reintroduce properly. So this is one fallacy which can occur. So try to identify that again. Is that okay? So look at the appropriate position. Now you can see this is inappropriate. It should be exactly here in this stomach. It should be in the stomach. You can see the tip of the stomach. Tip in the stomach. So it should be there. It should be in the center, 10 centimeter below this line. It should be below the diaphragm. It should be on the left side, etc. So try to look at that. And this is in a trachea. Very, very bad. You can end up with lot of complications. Now, central venous. By and large, the central venous catheter is put through the on the right side. Most commonly, it is done through the right side. So it is through a right internal jugular. So whenever you put that particular catheter, like here, it is usually straight catheter tip, and that tip will be somewhere ending here. Catheter tip should end somewhere here. It is said that this is a superior vena cava. This is the superior vena cava. This is little, and when it is from the right subclavian, it will be like this, up to carina, up to carina. So look that the tip of the catheter is close to the carina angle. So it is said that the tip of central venous catheter is within the superior vena cava at or just above the level of carina. This is at the level or just little above the carina. We say approximately 1 or 1.5 centimeter above the carina angle. But by and large, we keep it little above the carina angle. Okay. So if it is from the right subclavian, it will look like here. It is coming from here, and then it should not go beyond carina angle. So if it is from the internal jugular, it will be like this. Now you can see here, this is from going like this up to carina angle. And now here, this is in a atrial junction. This is the atrial junction. So this is what we call as peripheral inserted central catheter, PICC. And this is usually when a person has to be given for a very long period IV materials. We call as a total parenteral nutrition, TPN, total parenteral nutrition, etc. And if that line you want to keep it for a very long period, then usually they do a peripheral inserted central catheter are introduced, and it is at the level of the cavo-atrial junction. It is at the level of the cavo-atrial junction. Cavo-atrial junction, that is a junction of the superior vena cava and the right atrium. So it is called a superior vena cava and the atrial junction. It is at that junction you keep the position of that catheter, and that is central venous catheter position and what we call as a PICC line. So if it is done through the left side, then also it should not be right up to the atrium. Usually we keep it at the level of carina, up to the level of carina. If you want to keep the central venous catheter, if you are doing from the left subclavian. So in a case of a left subclavian, usually you try to do that. By and large, it is always done from the right side. By and large, always it is done through the right side. You can see this is a central venous line. There are 3 tubes which are there, and this is through the internal jugular vein, through internal, and this is PICC line, peripheral inserted central line. You can see it is right up to here. This is central line, right up to, and this is the carina angle. This is carina angle. This is at the carina. Don't push it very down. You can see here, this is central line. So optimal placement of the central line is tip of the junction. It should be at superior vena cava and the right atrial junction. So it is called cava atrial junction. Caval atrial junction convention. You can see this is PICC line up to here, and this is central line right up to here. This is the junction of superior vena cava and the right atrium. So you can go up to that. And this is pulmonary artery catheter, or we call Swan gauge catheter, which will be introduced through either a right side subclavian from right side, or through the internal jugular, and it will enter through the right atrium, and then it will go into the pulmonary artery through the pulmonary valve, pulmonary artery, and then it will be pushed to the different pulmonary branches. So this is pulmonary artery catheter, where you want to record a pulmonary artery pressure, and this is done very frequently in a person with pulmonary hypertension. You want to identify how severe the hypertension is and what are the changes what are taking place in a pulmonary artery, and this is also called as a right heart catheterization. This is a port. Through this port you introduce a central line. This is a port, and this is a central line which is introduced inside, and through this you can introduce IV fluids, etc. And when you want to introduce for a very long period through this port. Chest drainage tubes. Usually chest drainage tubes are done in a person who develops very commonly of empyema, pneumothorax, hemothorax, or combination of hydropneumo, hemopneumo, pyopneumo, etc. In those conditions, you usually put a chest drainage tube. This is a chest drainage tube. You can see this is a chest drainage tube. This is a chest drainage tube. And once the drainage is over, then you remove this tube and re-examine the person. It is done very commonly for pneumothorax. It is done for fluid and combination of air with fluid. Fluid can be water, exudate, pus, blood, malignant effusion, etc. In all those conditions, you can have that drainage tubes. So drainage tubes can be put here. In a case of a pneumothorax, usually the tube is put higher up, while in a case of a pleural effusion, it is lower down, because the fluid being a heavy, it will always settle down at the bottom. See this drainage tube. This is in a pneumothorax. This is for the pneumothorax. You can see this pneumothorax area. You can see the lung border. So this is for a pneumothorax. Chest tube. Intercostal drainage tubes. These are all electrodes and wires for monitor. These are electrodes for monitoring. Different types of electrodes for monitoring. This is a pacemaker. You can see a metallic material, and these are those batteries and different parts of a pacemaker. If there is a single wire which is coming out, it is a single chamber. If there are two wires which are coming out and going into two different chambers, it is a dual chamber. And if that particular is put into two ventricle, we call biventricular. By and large, a biventricular is always with atrial pacing, so it is a triple chamber pacing. Or if it is doing a purpose of defibrillation, cardioversion defibrillator, cardioverter defibrillator, then there will show you one X-ray before afterwards, which will show you a different types of a wire which will be there. So it can be single chamber, dual chamber, biventricular, or ICD. This is a ventricular pacing, pure ventricular pacing. Atrial pacing will be, wire will be seen here. Single chamber pacing. Now you can see here, this is right atrial lead, this is RV lead. So this is a dual chamber pacing, or we call AV pacing, or we also use a word sequential pacing. This is a pacemaker, this is a battery, these are the component of the pacemaker, etc. Now if you see here, This is atrial pacing. This is AV pacing, or we call dual chamber pacing or sequential pacing. Sequential pacing. If you look here, this is one in right ventricle, this is in a left ventricle. So right ventricle and left ventricular pacing. And also if you see here, this is a atrial pacing. So this is a triple chamber pacing. But both ventricular pace, so usually we use the word biventricular pacing. And this will be done very frequently in a CRT. Very commonly done in a CRT. You want to have what we call as a proper functioning of a atrium and ventricle. We call resynchronization therapy. Very frequently in a RCT. Resynchronization therapy. So it is very commonly in that particular. You can see here in this particular, this is a pacemaker. If you see this wire, now this is a thick part of that wire, and there is another thick part of that wire. This is called coil. This coil will give you a defibrillation. So this is ICD, implantable cardioverter defibrillator. Is it okay? So try to identify that. Now, if you see this type of structure in a cardiac shadow, very frequently this is what we call as this is implantable what we call as a cardiac defibrillator or cardioverter defibrillator, and this is very frequently ASD closer device. This is for ASD, and similar type of material is also available for VSD. But if you see such a big one, it is very frequently for an ASD. So this is an ASD closer device. Yes, once in a while you can see on an X-ray if a person has undergone that. Now you can see that this particular device, the wire is not going inside into the cardiac chamber, it is going up. So this type of material is sometimes is for what we call the deep brain stimulation, or a stimulation for vagus nerve. Very frequently done in a case of an epilepsy also. So this is very frequently utilized in a deep brain stimulation, deep brain stimulators, stimulating either a vagus nerve or a electrode is going inside into the brain substances. And if you see a shadow like this, yes, this is a part of a breast tissue shadow, but this is because of a breast implant. Very frequently, breast implants, particularly for a modification of the breast size. This is on the one side only, there is a breast implant which is being done. Now you can see this shadow going up. Clear? So this can be also seen in a case of an internal loop recorder also. Internal loop recorder. Implantable loop recorder. Now you can see very clearly. Now you can see this coil, and this is another coil. Clear? And you can see this device. This is LV assisted device. This will carry the blood from LV and will inject into an aorta. So this is for a left ventricular failure, in a congestive heart failure, to help the ventricle to have a good systolic output, cardiac output. This is LV assisted device which will be seen like this, and this is implantable cardiac device, or we call implantable cardiac defibrillator. Left ventricular assisted device. This is a left ventricular assisted device, and this is ICD. Yes, these are the things you can identify sometimes. You can see this is a wire which has broken here. Now even if this is there, the person is not going to get the advantage of this pacemaker. So this is a break in that particular wire. And if you see this particular wire of this pacemaker has perforated the ventricle and has come out. So this is a ventricular perforation. And sometimes this person can end up with a hemopericardium, or can also end up with a leak of blood out of the ventricle. This is a lid fracture, we call lid fracture. You can see this particular, the one of the tip of the wire is here, and another wire is seen here. And this happens very frequently. The person has got a habit of touching the pacemaker box very frequently, and he goes on rotating. And because of rotation, when he rotates in this direction, the catheter will come out, the pacemaker wire will come out, and it is rotated. This is called Twiddler syndrome. Twiddler syndrome. And this happens very frequently in a person who has got a habit of touching that pacemaker box very frequently, which is put below the skin in this pacemaker space. And this can happen very frequently. Now you can see here, this is sternotomy which is being done, and these are sutures. These are sutures wire. Is it clear? You can see. And can you see something? What is this? These are what we call as a prosthetic valves. These are prosthetic valves. This is prosthetic valve, and this is suture lines. Now we will show you that how does it looks like. These are all the different shapes of prosthetic valve. This is a dish shape. Dish shape. This is bioprosthetic valve, which looks like this, and this is a mechanical valve called cake ball valve, ball and socket. It is usually we use the word ball and socket, and this is called tilting disc valve, and this will be the shape of that particular valve. So these are the different types of valve. This is a aortic valve. This will be mitral valve, and this will be the shape which will appear in an AP view. You can see the sutures, and when you see a valve linear like this, it is aortic, and when you see a ring like structure, it is usually a mitral valve. It will be a mitral valve on the face, we call. This is on the face. This is in the profile. Aortic valve in a profile. And when you see laterally, means if you draw a straight line in a midline and you draw a horizontal line at this level, if the valve is topmost, it is pulmonary. At the junction of the line, two lines, at the junction of these two lines, it is aortic. So this is aortic, and below aortic on the left side, mitral, and on the right side, tricuspid. So this will be pulmonary, this will be aortic, this will be mitral, this will be tricuspid. So pulmonary is higher up, aortic is exactly in the center, on the left side mitral, on the right side tricuspid. You can see like this. This is in a PA view. This is in a PA view. So this is pulmonary, this is aortic, this is mitral, this is tricuspid. So if you look here, now in this particular picture, the valve position will change. So pulmonary valve will be top, aortic valve will be in the center. Now you look, same picture. Now they have given that particular aortic valve is exactly here, pulmonary is here top, mitral valve is on the left side, and tricuspid valve is on the right side and lower down. Now same thing if you look here, aortic is in the center, pulmonary valve will be here, mitral valve will be posterior, and tricuspid valve will be little anterior and lower down. So this will be the position of different valves. Now you can see this particular valve in a lateral view. If you look like this, this is aortic valve. This is aortic valve replacement. Aortic valve replacement. And this is a bioprosthetic valve shape. This is a sternal sutures. These are sternal sutures. Is it clear? And these are not a foreign body inside the chest. These are the buttons for a monitoring. So this is a pulmonary valve, topmost. If it is here, this will be aortic. If it is posterior, mitral. Anterior and lower down, tricuspid. You can see here, in this view, this will be aortic. This will be mitral. Here, it will be tricuspid. So aortic, mitral and tricuspid. Aortic, mitral and tricuspid. Where is it? And these are sutures. Again, aortic, mitral and tricuspid. This is ball and socket type of valve. This is ball and socket. You can see one very clearly here. Very clearly here. In this radio opaque shadow, then you will have to concentrate. This is a second valve. This is another valve, and this is a third valve. So you will have to concentrate. Aortic, mitral and tricuspid. Aortic, mitral and tricuspid. Clear? Now this is a tube here, there is another tube here. You should try to identify. This is an endotracheal tube and this is a feeding tube. Feeding tube. These are portable wires, or we call as for monitoring. Monitoring. So yes, whenever it is taken a portable X-ray, don't comment on cardiomegaly. You can see a pacemaker, a thick coil here and another thick coil here. So this is ICD. This is ICD. This is curly B line. Curly B line. So this particular patient has got cardiomegaly with curly B line. Is in a congestive heart failure. Is in a congestive heart failure. Cardiomegaly, curly B line, and this is an ICD. Now, if you see a ground glass appearance in the lung, bilateral, think in terms of ARDS. This is collapse of the lung because of a pneumothorax. You can see one tube going right down below the diaphragm, and it is a big tube in the stomach. So this is a Ryle's tube, or we call it the nasogastric tube. Nasogastric tube. And see, this particular is going through this, and it is somewhere here. This has to be a central line. Central line. And these are monitor. These are monitor line. And this is a collapsed lung, and this is a pneumothorax. This is a pneumothorax. So try to identify those different lines. You should be able to pick up that easily. Now you can see there is one catheter here, which is going like this, going from right subclavian. So when it is going through right subclavian vein, it is a venous catheter only. So this is for a central venous line and stopping here. So this is a central venous catheter. These are ECG electrodes, and you can see this is a pigtail catheter put for intercostal drainage, and this is a nasogastric tube. Nasogastric tube, which is here. So try to identify those particular structures. Okay. So go through. This is a PA catheter. This is a nasogastric tube. This is a chest tube. So try to identify those structures. Chest tube, nasogastric tube, pulmonary artery catheters. These are what we call as different types of wires which you can see for monitor. You can see the scapula and shoulder joint here. Here you can't see that particular. That is missing. So person has got right shoulder has been amputated. Now if you see, these are suture lines. This is a monitor. This is a monitor wire. Now you can see here in this particular person in an ICU, and there is a gas under the diaphragm. This is bowel perforation. Bowel perforation. These are suture lines. Endotracheal tube is inside. Endotracheal tube is inside. And if you look properly, what else you can see? What else you can see? This mediastinum has been shifted here. Mediastinum has been shifted here. So, what is the source of dyspnea? The person has got some pathophysiology on this side, which is pushing the mediastinum to the opposite side. Is that clear? Very frequently it will be in a pneumothorax. Very frequently in a pneumothorax. Yes. Two elderly women post-operative. You can see this is a PA view. No, this is an AP view. This is always taken in a supine view. So cardiomegaly will appear because of that supine view. So don't try to comment on cardiomegaly. And you can see these are monitor lines. Monitor. And there is one catheter which is going like this. Catheter is going like this. And you can see here, this is one wire, this is the second wire. You can see one wire is going like this. Now, whenever you see a wire like this, not in the center, this could be a pacemaker wire, maybe an external pacemaker, maybe an external pacemaker. Try to identify. Try to identify. You can see these are the two wires mainly for what we call as a monitoring. and you can see the suture wires. Suture wires. You can see the suture wires. Now you can see here gas under the diaphragm. Pneumoperitoneum. Now because of some pathophysiology below the diaphragm also can push the diaphragm up and can change the shape of the heart. And this is Chilaiditi syndrome. Chilaiditi. Chilaiditi syndrome. Yes, arrow has been shown here. What it is? There is something which is seen like this. This is a material which is outside the chest. This is artifact because of the braid. So sometimes you can see something. Remove that, say that's gone. Now this thing sometimes is misinterpreted as some pathophysiology in the lung. Always try to look out. It can be outside. Very frequently it is bra clips, hair bands, etc. Try to look for those also. This is post bronchography. Once the bronchography is done, dye can remain in the bronchial tree, and you can have this particular picture when the X-ray is taken little after the bronchography is done. Sometime even if you can see a breast shadow like this, and these are a radio opacity which are seen. This is a post bronchogram picture. Radio bronchogram. What you can see here, yes, in a left main bronchus, can you see here? Now if I want to make out much better, I'll take a lateral view. You can see this is a coin which can be seen as a small radio opaque shadow here. Same small radio opaque shadow. Sometimes may be missed, but best it will be seen in this lateral. You can see a very nice shadow here. This is a coin in left main bronchus. Now this is a frontal view and this is a lateral view. You can see there is a big metallic material here. So what and where it is, if you want to find out, you should have a lateral view. You should have a lateral view. Now this is a air strip and this is behind. So this has to be in esophagus. Esophagus. If it is in trachea, it will be seen here. So this is a coin in esophagus. Such big coin cannot enter into trachea. See the size. So one, on the size you can identify, and second, in a lateral view, if it is behind the trachea, it will be in a esophagus. So try to. So I end my all the series of X-ray chest here. I hope this will be very, very helpful to you in your future and in your everyday practice.